Hi, everyone. I just wanted to introduce to you the CEO of Military Talent Partners and one of my dear friends, Natalie Oliverio. Can you give me the proper pronunciation? Because I feel like I never say it right.
It's Oliverio.
Oliverio. See, nice. So I want everyone to know that she's an amazing human, and we actually met through LinkedIn first, through kind of just like veteran LinkedIn situation, and then we happened to be at Grant Cardone's Growth Con in Vegas. I live here, and then she flew out, and we're like, oh my god, we got to meet up, and then it's just been magic after that.
It's been nothing but magic, basically.
Love it. And she's such a good human. I can't say enough about her, but genuinely, her business is just something I align with very much. She helps out so many veterans. And so please tell us more about that.
Yes, thank you so much for having me, Brittany. It is a dream to be here with you. As is Military Talent Partners, it was a dream. And the dream came from wanting to help other service members, veterans, military spouses, and Gold Star families. Because when you're in transition or you're unemployed or underemployed, what you really need is someone that can support you in the way that you need to be supported to help you find a meaningful career. So at Military Talent Partners, we partner with companies all across the country who are military ready, meaning they're ready to hire veterans and spouses, and also 50% of our revenue is dedicated to keeping all of our services for vets and their families free. So we offer free mentorship and coaching, and we have an online cohort which supports career transition, everything from what do you want to do next to writing your resume, interviewing, and negotiating a job offer. So we take care of everything holistically. We meet you where you are, and that's where the magic happens at MTP. It is an honor to be a part of the journeys for these service members and their families and the veterans and the spouses. It's a joy to see that light bulb come on, to have a heavy hand in elevating human potential. That is our superpower, and we love doing it.
And you're so good at it. I mean, there's so many people who give you reviews and just love you as a person, just like I do. I mean, you just changed a lot of lives for vets. So I think it's amazing that you took your passion and turned it into this. And it's one of the reasons I wanted to speak with you today is because work culture, it has a huge impact with recruiting and hiring and onboarding. And a lot of people don't really understand that correlation. So I wanted us to rap about it so that they can understand.
Yeah,
So
I think if you have a minute, it's like foreign land to you.
it's like, you know, even onboarding, I try to let people know that like when they're even putting a job rec out there, you guys need to have your work culture within that. I'm like, what do you mean by that? I'm like, okay, your mission, your vision, your values, because that's a way to weed out people that maybe aren't aligned with your work culture in a good way, so that you do retain people and bring on board people who align with what you've got going on, what your values are, because they've seen it from the beginning before we even hire them. And like, what is your take on that?
Absolutely. A company can have the perfect candidate in mind, but their perfect candidate might not be the right match because maybe that mission or that vision or those values don't align with theirs. So having a realistic understanding of your organizational needs and your culture is crucial to attracting and retaining the right talent.
Right? And I feel like from a veteran perspective, we can say this, like maybe there's they retired and maybe they wanted to turn down a little bit. Maybe they don't want to get straight up into the entrepreneur world or the startup world because it's just like this. And maybe that's not what they're aligned with. And that's okay. But or maybe someone, just got done maybe out of 4 years and they're still rear and ready to go. And maybe they want something that's more in that space or vice versa. It just depends on the person where they're at. And if people understand that from the beginning, like what work culture are we getting into? Is it going to be high pace like it was when I was in the military, or do I want to turn down a little bit and do something more, government space that might not be as intense as when I was in the military? I just think that it's really important for corporations to understand that their work culture can be put into their onboarding process so that they're not picking up people who don't jive with them.
Exactly. I think so many companies who are interested in hiring military or veterans are so focused on being attractive and selling themselves without thinking of how they're serving these veteran employees and how veterans serve their business. If you think of service at the core of anything, you're definitely on a better path than trying to force your brand recognition or candidate pipeline into the hands of the wrong people, or people who are shiny objects and show up on the first day but end up hating it, and then you have retention problems. And quite honestly, the cost of a bad hire is enough of a risk to hopefully steer you out of a wrong decision.
Is there a statistic like off the top that you know how much a bad hire can cost?
One bad hire could cost anywhere from $40,000 to $100,000 a year. I mean, however, when that candidate is leaves and the turnover happens and you have to then attract and recruit someone else, all the investment you've made in that person, plus the time they're missing by being at the company and that position's not filled, combined to add up to a huge sum of money.
Right. And I think that, CEOs out there listening or just hiring managers, whoever, please take heed to this because, and I just posted something today on LinkedIn about how, if you continue to retain people who are not good for your work culture, that's a whole nother bag of worms. Holding on to people who just are not a good culture fit, they can bring the entire work culture down to their vibration. And that's not good because you have one person who is uh, they're the bad apple and they're ruining all your good, all that your talent wants to leave because they don't want to deal with this because they're bringing everything down. So from a military culture, like you were in the Navy, for everyone out there, and how long were you in?
Just 4 years.
And I mean, you saw the good, bad, and the ugly, just like I did, and we've had many conversations about this. Do you feel like there's a huge difference within work cultures, like military to corporate?
Absolutely. I would say that the military, there are so many differences, but the military's view on leadership is based on the military culture. So adding in more coaching and development, EQ, servant leadership is really, really important in any corporate environment. But also, depending on the corporation, whether that company has promoted from within or supplied the right training and coaching for their leaders really depends on if those leaders have the right mix of EQ and service and coaching. And really, the whole point of any leader or leadership position is to see those who you support essentially grow and develop and prosper, because when they are at their best, they're doing their best work, meaning that the company is then at its best. So your job as a leader is to really serve others, to be at their best, to elevate their potential, to hold them accountable, and to also help develop their growth. And unfortunately, a lot of companies get that wrong. They don't put the time and attention to detail into their current talent or workforce. And they don't recruit with that lens either. So they're looking at it with different eyes and the wrong mindset.
Yeah, I really hope that people take heed to this because I mean for us it's like, well, duh, but not everyone, sees it like, from our lens, from our point of view. But like, and it's been mind-boggling to me getting out of the service that there is a lack of leadership training, even like frontline leadership training. Like for us in the Air Force, it was like Airman Leadership School before you so on E5. But I don't see that in the corporate world. I barely see it. Like maybe Lockheed, they have like mentorship programs, like, but they're closely related to the military, so maybe they got that from the military. But like, have you seen too much of that on the corporate side? Like,
it depends. I think companies who are known to have more robust compensation packages, top of the line manufacturing or product companies, pharmaceutical companies, they are going to put more money behind their current talent because they likely understand what leveraging their existing workforce can do for their bottom line. There are different programs such as Insights. There's, the Myers-Briggs testing. There are different color wheels and different metrics to measure personalities. Also coaching on ways to talk to different audiences in your own team, because how you manage one person probably isn't as effective in how you manage another, because every human is unique and there's nothing wrong with that. So believing that you're a good leader is wonderful. Believing you've got nothing to learn because you know it all and you're at the top of your leadership game is a pitfall and a mistake, because no matter how wonderful you are, you can always increase your knowledge, your value, and you can grow together. Seeing other people do well should always be your goal.
Preach. I couldn't agree more. I don't see what they don't see, but we are here today to preach at the pulpit, if you will.
Let's help them. Let's just help them all out.
Right? Listen up, because this will help you. It's an investment within your company to invest in your people.
Absolutely.
And so I hope y'all are listening. With it's been hard for me, I can say. So I was going to ask for you to, now that I've been out of the service, it's been hard to find mentors, leadership. I always loved having a mentor or something like that. When I was in the military, it was kind of easier. For some reason, like on the outside, socially consulting is cutthroat, so it's not so easy. You're trying to find someone that is a good leader for me, especially since I'm kind of in my own bubble. How's it been for you on the outside? Have you been able to find, good leadership on the corporate side?
It was really hard. I felt for so long like I was just working circles around my boss or my manager or quote unquote leader. And I had just hit the ceiling. There was nowhere to go. And when you get there, the only place to go is somewhere else. But the number one step to remedy that is first understanding your goals and knowing where you want to go. What aren't you getting? What about the culture isn't working for you, and how could it be better? Until you understand what those potential solutions look like, you're really just complaining to yourself, to your leader. And if they are ill-equipped to help you, or there is a problem with your work culture, not knowing these answers make it really difficult to understand what you're looking for. You'd fall into a trap of being gaslighted. You could, fall into a practice of just sucking it up every day and going through the motions. But your life is just too short and precious to suffer through that. And your value and potential talent is limitless. So first understanding what are your goals, what's not working, and how could it work better. And Brittany, to your point, mentors make all the difference. I had no idea I would ever become an entrepreneur or a small business owner until my mentor opened my eyes to that potential. And he, flat out told me the reason why you keep butting up against a wall is because you're not in the right place. Like, you're trying to become something that you're not meant to be. You're reporting to and working for people that are not in your path. And until you get on a new one, you won't be happy. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you're right.
Mm-hmm.
Never thought of that. Like, crazy. And I'm like, well, I'm not good enough. And, who would want to work with me? And are people going to pay me for that? Like, that's crazy. And guess what they do? Because, although I didn't have an MBA, I didn't raise the most money, didn't have the most money, but I arguably care the most, and I'm great at what I do. And I believe, when we were at that conference, we saw Magic Johnson speak, and he said, I believe if you're in the right place doing the right thing and you work your ass off, things are going to work out for you, because that's what's meant to be. Yeah. And I cannot explain the past 3 years any other way than that.
Yeah, and your growth has been crazy. And I've been just, as a friend, I've been super proud of you, and just as someone that I aspire to, like you said, if you work your ass off, it will come to you. I mean, there's going to be some time, and we know. I was just on a podcast a few hours before this, and I talked about you. I'm like, I have my confidant that I go vent to when things are, hard out here for entrepreneurship. And, for all those of you out there listening, that are you in a bad work culture? And like Natalie said, you got to have some self-awareness. Now you got to dig within deep. Am I in the right place? It doesn't mean you have to be an entrepreneur. It just means maybe you can be at a completely better company. And then from the CEO's standpoint, if you are having a work culture that's not great, this is what your people are thinking about. They're thinking about their exit strategy. How can I eject as fast as possible? But if you do well for your people and they want to be there, they're not going to be having these types of conversations with themselves on whether or not they want to, completely start something else, which is great. I'm not knocking that, but it's like, if you can keep your people happy, you probably will retain them, which is why work culture is important.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't say it any better.
You're the one that's good with words. I'm just here for you.
You are too. You're amazing. I think it's funny though that, employers and leaders believe, well, they're not going to leave, or they're going to leave because they are not making enough money, or they just want more money or a bonus or a raise. It's really not about the money, especially when it comes to veterans. Veterans are naturally purpose driven, and they are outcome versus income mentality. And if there's nowhere to go, if they're hitting their head against the wall or their talent is at the top of the ceiling, what else do you expect them to do? They need to grow. They need to make an impact. Their voices must be heard, and they have to matter. And that is everything that defines work culture.
Yes. I mean, they just want, like you said, purpose. And that's kind of a hard thing when people get out of the service. They feel like they're not part of a family anymore. They don't have a purpose, which, we as a veteran community can do better at deprogramming people so that they're not so when they get out. You know what I mean? Like, it is like hitting a brick wall. You're just like, oh, wow, we're done. I just hung my uniform up and I walked out the gate and I can't go back. Because, well, if you don't have your blue card,
Yeah, it's scary.
And so, with your experience of placing people into these awesome companies that you work with, I know we've had conversations like you vet these companies before you even get on board with working with them, which, to me says a lot, because you're not going to work with a company that has a trash work culture, because then you'd be putting a veteran in a position that wouldn't feel right for you to put them in. So can you talk to that, like your vetting process almost, if you will?
Absolutely. It has to be a company that is genuine in their intent, that understands why and how veterans or spouses or Gold Star family members belong within their organization. And the package has to be great. It has to be something that I myself would personally take based on the total package, the work culture, the environment, and the opportunity itself, the career trajectory. Is it full-time? Is it permanent? Is it going to be a holistically meaningful career? That's the difference. It's not gig work. Not that there's anything wrong with any other type of work. There certainly isn't. But this is our niche. We are looking for meaningful careers to hopefully, and successfully so far, make that meaningful long-term match. We want to alleviate the struggle for retention. We want to mitigate your costs and expenses for the wrong hires by introducing you to the absolute right person for the role.
Absolutely. I just want to take a moment, everybody. Y'all need to call Natalie, okay? You're welcome. I'm talking on the veteran side, everything, because there's thousands and thousands, if not maybe millions, I don't know, of recruiters out there. But Natalie comes from a place where she genuinely wants to put you somewhere as a veteran that is good for you, but also companies, she's going to provide you someone who's going to do well for you too. That, like, some recruiters out there, it's just about the monies, it's about the numbers. You guys generally come from a place of people first, and that's what I really appreciate about your company.
For sure. And we prove that we're for profit for a purpose. And we prove that by putting 50% of our revenue into our service work with everyone who comes to us. They never pay a dime for anything that we do or the time that we spend with them. And that's really important and really a fundamental foundation rather for what we do, because we're not just sourcing talent like every other recruiter out there. We're building talent in a way that prepares them to understand who they are and what they want, so that when we introduce them to an amazing employer, the match is so much easier.
True. And like you said, you're like, these workshops that you do, you're helping these veterans understand the corporate world, so that it's not just when they get in there, because there is different complexities as to how you need to deal with civilians now. You are one too. So, hop on board, but it is a challenge, just as well as I do.
Yes, absolutely. And it's an ongoing challenge because situations change, employees change, organizational needs change. So you can't come in and be the same leader that you were a year ago or 2 years ago. You have to continually evolve and be hungry for more.
True. And pivot.
Pivot, 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 pivot.
Right? You've taught me that. Amen. So within your own company and with all this craziness of COVID the past year, just everything, how have you been able to, keep your work culture at an all-time high with all this going on and your
Being
growth?
honest. Honesty and transparency is the only way. How, if not, you're going to be putting a brave face on every day, even if things are not great. But by being honest with your team, communicating openly, you earn their trust and you work through it together. It's really, really hard to find the right answer and to make an impact in a vacuum. But when you open up the floor and you include the minds of the brilliant people you've hired and brought on board, obviously for a reason, you're able to get through it together. That is super important. Also being more open-minded in our approach and our expectations, understanding the world is different now. Corporate is different now. So how can we adjust to better serve their needs where they are now? And encouraging more remote work, helping employers see the benefit to different solutions has been really, really impactful, both for the companies that we serve and the people.
Thank you for that, because
Yeah.
one of my last questions that I ask all CEOs, and this is one of my favorites, is having a good work culture, what problem does that solve?
A good work culture is your secret weapon in the battle for retention. You shouldn't be worried about recruit, recruit, recruit. You should be always forward thinking, retain, retain, retain. Don't just hire a rock star for a year. Hire a rock star for the next 10 or 20 years and build them, grow them, hire them for their ability and train for the strengths that you're looking for. Don't worry about a piece of paper that talks about their years of experience or their educational background. With the right coaching and leadership and the right work culture, you can cultivate the dream talent you've always been looking for.
Listen, I'm gonna tell you right now. Once we're done here, I'm gonna have to go back, use that as some copy because that's in the.
You're so funny.
Um, I just really hope that people, retain what it is that you've said here because it can really take their business to the next level. Work culture is so important, and like you said, retaining people, it's a huge retention tool. And people, and I put a post recently on LinkedIn about, loyalty is a two-way street. You can't expect, and I've seen this in bad toxic work cultures where these CEOs are just leadership, air quotes, for those of you who can't see me, that just like, I need more and more out of you, more with less, and but do nothing for their people and will as soon boot you for not hitting your sales thing as opposed, they are not loyal, sometimes these toxic places, but then they expect loyalty like crazy on the flip. And that's not how this works. This is a relationship, honey. This is in real life relationships with couples, friendships, and as well as business. This is a two-way street.
It certainly is. And if everyone approached any situation with a mutual perspective, imagine how differently things could go.
Right? Emotional intelligence for the win.
All day, every day.
Yes. Well, thank you so, so much for being on the show with me. It's been a minute. I've been wanting to have you on here. You are our first woman on the show, and I wanted it to be you.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Thank you. What an honor.
You're my number one. But
in your mind. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and continue to do all the amazing things you do, and we will talk soon. Thank you.